work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work, hard work.
Fall in.
Hey, what's good? What's good? What's good? Y'all know what it is. It's your boy Trey, and you're rocking with your favorite vets on the Nets. First formation morning sports talks. So come on and fall in with your favorite vets on the Nets as we get to talking about some of the most interesting and polarizing, I guess, hot topics of it in sports in the last 24 hours. In which there's a lot that's going on when you start to look at it, and think about what's been happening with the NBA, college basketball, NFL as it's getting ready. We know come this time next week, it'll be tapped into where you're going to be engaging with you're going to be looking at the free agents starting to get those calls and being asked to come be a part of my team for this amount of money. We all love to see it, especially if your team is going to be the one that's going to be gaining from that time. So something I'd like to get into this morning, right? Well, no, you know what? I'll give that for a second as I wait for my guests and co-hosts to get on this morning. Let's talk about the ladies and their champion week. As we know already, there's been a few have already punched their ticket for the big dance coming up at the end of March Madness, as y'all know it. We already know Virginia Tech Hokies punched their ticket over Louisville. We spoke about that. We know the South Carolina Gamecocks are fully tapped in. They're fully ahead of the game, 32-0 in the regular season. They win the SEC regular season award. Then they go win the SEC's tournament award with a 74-88 win over Tennessee. Iowa, Caitlin Clark, a bucket. She take care of business. They get it in. Of course, furthermore, James Madison Dukes win the Sun Belt Conference with a 81-51 win over Texas Tech as they punched their ticket. UConn Huskies did the same thing with a 67-56 win over Villanova. In the Horizon, Cleveland State Vikings. We're talking women's. Cleveland State Vikings, 73-61 over Green Bay. They punched their ticket. South Dakota State Jackrabbits with the 93-51 win over Omaha. They get in for the summit. West Coast, the Portland Pilots win over Gonzaga with the 64-60 dub, punching their ticket to the big dance. The Sacramento State Hornets with the 76-63 win over North Arizona get their ticket punched. On the Mountain West Coast, UNLV Lady Rebels gets in with the 71-60 win, led by Desiree Young. They get the dub over Wyoming as they punch their ticket. In the East Carolina Pirates get the dub over Houston as those ladies punch their ticket to the Biz Dan for the American West. In the Southland, Southeast Louisiana gets the win as they punch their ticket, 66-57 over Lamar. And we still have the American East, the MAC, SWAC, MAAC, the MEAC, Conference USA, and amongst others. We actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 more conferences need to play out there for them to determine who is going to be the overall, who gets the automatic bids. And of course, we know on Selection Sunday. Then we go forth, and there starts to get the at-large bids. So, with that being said, these at-large bids are very crucial. And I've always, when I look at stuff, and I'll be looking at these games, and as the tournaments go, and you start to see teams start to knock off, getting fall off. Of course, for me, being a USC fan and looking at it from an aspect of um, USC is not is it the most known team uh, when it comes to basketball. I mean, they get they do what they can, but it's not necessarily known for basketball right off the bat. So with that being said, I always look and see like what initially is I always look and see what initially is that was what you're going to do, because of course going forth we have to be able to I have to be able to see that okay, USC uh needs help from this team, or USC needs to win the Pac-12 conference championship to guarantee a bid. Last year, actually, over the course of the last 5 years, at least 2 to 3 times, they've been kind of cemented whether they win the Pac-12 championship or not, because they was pretty good throughout the postseason. I mean, throughout the regular seasons, they always got an at-large bid, or they was at least a first five in. I mean, first four in which it could be the same this year. Already, we know some of the ones that have already punched their ticket. The Louisiana Raging Cajuns beat South Alabama um, to get their ticket punched for the Sun Belt. The Furman Paladins get the win over Chattanooga 88-69 for their ticket. Horizon League, the North Kentucky Norse win over Cleveland State 63-61 for their to be the representative. In the West Coast, the Gonzaga Bulldogs 77-51 over St. Mary's. They consistently go back and forth. That's like definitely a rivalry, which I want to tap into that too. I want to speak about rivalries. In Charleston, at the CAA, the Cougars 63-58 over the UNC Wilmington. They get their ticket, their ticket. Um, Summit League, the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles get their ticket punch their own ticket 92-58 over North Dakota State. Now they don't have to worry about if or when they get selected. In the Southland, Texas A&M Christie CC Islanders punches their ticket last night over Northwestern State 75-71. In the Big Sky, Montana State Bobcats gets their ticket punched with a win over the over North Arizona with a score of 85-78. This would be their fourth appearance, in which they've gone back to back. So Montana State gets a chance to see what they can do, who is going to be this year's Cinderella, I guess you could say. Patriot League, Colgate Raiders get their win over Lafayette by the score of 79-61. This would be the sixth appearance for the Raiders, their third straight. So they get a chance to make noise. So hearing these, of course, these automatic bids for the most part, being able to hear these wins or hear these individuals and speaking, what you start to think about, for me, what I always think about is out these people, who is going to be that team that ends up becoming uh, the Cinderella squad. Who's going to play Cinderella? Who plays the role of Cinderella? Where do the upsets come in at? If it's going to be anything. What's going on, Skeneeth? What's going on, sis? Yes, it is Friday. Uh, appreciate you. Appreciate you. Glad to see that you up and Adam early in the morning. Hope you're having a gracious day as well. Um, so who is going to be the one that's going to captures everyone's hearts for this year? Of course, last year it was a team out of New York. I can't remember their name exactly, but last year it was them that was tapped in doing their thing. At one point, it was the Ramblers with with the Nun that was doing their thing, in which actually they came back time after time again. So it was like a whole different type of vibe. At some point, I think you will go from being the Cinderella to showing that you're actually a legitimate team. And so they had a slight run, a little run. Of course, they haven't. Maybe I don't think their league has been done yet. I don't think a lot of the leagues have been done yet. So in any case, like you have that going on, so it makes a whole lot of difference. But I guess that's the mystique and everything to that conversation. When we talk about the Cinderella. So of course, real quick, let me bring in our guest for today, Mr. Mike Barker. So if y'all been watching First Formation for a while, about Mike has been on before. He usually comes on with some colorful commentary and has something to say about the teams. But in any case, say we love having on. What's good, Mike? What's going on with you, brother?
What's up, man? What y'all up to?
Oh, hey, same old, man.
I figured that it was about time for me to be on since Aaron Rodgers was all in the mix now all of a sudden.
Oh, yes.
And
it's funny how that happens.
Yeah, I was like, man, that's weird. He reaches out, wants me to have me on, and Aaron Rodgers is in the news. So that's good on you.
The light bulb went off. I was like, you know what? We need our resident bad man. Like I call Bishop I call Bishop a Jordan sexual because he refuses to want to give LeBron any props, in my opinion, because he's just Team Jordan. So I was like, you know what? Let's get the other side of the spectrum. So you know what? That's good to lead off before we get directly into that. So what is your take on what's going on? Because this time last year we was wondering if Aaron, what he was going to do, and here we are yet again wondering what Aaron is going to do. Yeah. Why does this keep happening to Aaron Rodgers?
Man, he's a really good player, but I think as these guys kind of get towards the end of the twilight of their career, man, it becomes more about dollar signs, and setting up that legacy of getting out of the game. I think that becomes kind of the mindset. So, I think he realizes, similar to when he came in with Brett Favre, right? It's the writing's on the wall. The next guy's already there. So, why not go and make a little extra change somewhere else before I step on out? So
in the case of Aaron Rodgers, though, like you just said, Brett Favre left. I guess he's continued to compete, but they're not the same in your opinion. Would you say at this point Rodgers is a little better than what Brett was when he was in the same position? Like, do you think Rodgers could go somewhere and still produce?
Oh, for sure. And the Jets have a more talented team than the Packers right now. So if you look at the pieces, they have a better defense and they have some young studs on the offense. So, that's probably inciting to him to like, hey, let me go play with some of these young bucks that are showing out. Just the Jets are missing a quarterback, to be that piece. So, I can definitely see why, outside of the money, if he's truly wanting to try to compete for another Super Bowl, why he would, look at the Jets as a team of, hey, man, this might be the team if I'm the piece, right? So, I think there's multiple factors that go into it. I don't think he's trying to go to the Falcons,
true that.
So I don't think he would go to a team he doesn't feel like could compete. But I think it's twofold: money.
Yeah. Okay, I wouldn't doubt it. So, but I don't know why. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm still trying to figure out why does the Jets seem to be that team that looks like. I mean, you did just make some good points. They do have a defense. They have the rookie of the year, both rookie and offensive rookie and defensive rookie of the year that's on their squad.
Sure.
And potentially they had who should have been the rookie of the year, and Breece Hall had he not got injured. But then Breece Hall gets injured, and yet the wide receiver, the other rookie that they drafted, ends up winning the offensive player of the year, offensive rookie player of the year. So but for the life of me, I was wondering, like, everything is like, first it was Lamar Jackson, then it was Derek Carr, which Derek Carr is a conversation I didn't understand because Derek Carr is horrible in the code. Then now it's Aaron Rodgers. Why is everyone looking at the Jets as that destination? I would have thought, one, that Tampa Bay would be that destination, especially now that Tom has moved on. Like, you got two top receivers.
Yep.
A decent, all right running game, all right defense. Like, I would have thought that would be an ideal place to be if any of the spots, but it seems to be New York. Go figure.
Well, big market, big money, right?
True that.
So,
True that.
and you know, Tampa would, you know, I think definitely be a place, but you know, I still think they're missing some pieces. You know, a lot of their talent is a little older. You know, where the Jets are, you know, are younger. You know, they're all young guys. You know, they're all fresh in their career and balling out, making a difference. So, you know, it's just I don't know. I mean, the NFL quarterback carousel is upon us.
Oh yeah, it's upon us. Everyone's gonna be sitting there looking and thinking like, okay, where we going? Who we going with? So, real quick, of course, we know Mike, CEO, Hero Sports. What's going on in the Hero Sports realm? What's the latest and greatest going on there?
Oh man, we're all over the map, man. We're out at a military softball tournament this weekend in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Military duel. It's 10 military teams, I think 50 civilian teams playing out there this weekend, and we're set up there. We've got in Northwest Florida, we've got a military / celebrity softball game being played in the Blue Wahoo Stadium. That's let's see here. We've got all kinds of stuff, man. We're a part of a crawfish festival here in San Antonio, where we sponsor a free pound of crawfish for every veteran or service member. So they get to go out there, enjoy some crawfish at the festival, and we cover the tab. So last year we covered 2,000 pounds of crawfish. So 2,000 veterans got to go have a free pound of crawfish at that event. You know, that's a cool one too, because they get to go out with their family and enjoy a day and ride some rides and see some music and, you know, just enjoy a day with the fam. We got a big military softball tournament coming up at the end of the month in Columbus, Georgia. The military basketball tournament here at Lackland. I think we're going to be live streaming that, all the games over there. So tune into Hero Sports on Facebook, and we should be live streaming all those games. So excited about that, man. We just
the National Military Basketball Tournament.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we did it last year. So I think we're going to do that again this year. I think people, you know, just being able to use our platform for, you know, families and parents and, you know, wives and daughters and sons to be able to watch dad, mom play, you know, abroad. You know, if we can use our platform for that, man, and people can kind of, I even had some guys last year after the tournament hit us up and just be like, hey, can I just get this game film because, you know, I want to use it for X, Y, and Z, you know, if they want to use it for their social media, or if they want to, you know, try to, you know, go play ABA or, you know, some other kind of platform where they can use the film that we use to further their career, man. You know, I just think that's awesome. So, you know,
okay. So I know last night, because I was doing it, and I had the intramural championship game last night for a 3-on-3, in which that was some talk amongst some of the people that was sitting, because they was asking, like, Trey, who's over the Fort Polk softball team, or who's this? I was like, and so as they would sit up and talking in front of me and conversing with me, it came up talking about going to duels, where I have one of my my sports assistant, they them and their wife was talking about going to duels, and then they was talking about and then they was like, well, we was going to do duels, or something came up where one of them was playing the duels, and then the other one was like, oh, talk about the Band-Aid. And it's like the Band-Aid's up, so I know there's definitely going to be people represented from Fort Polk that's going to be in that area that in those tournaments, because that's all that's been talking about for the most part. And then of course the North National Military Basketball Tournament, there's been conversations back and forth in the military in reference to military basketball. So we know about that. I think as well, myself and Bishop should be down there. Well, Bishop is down there, of course, but I should be down there as well to check out some of the games and do whatever. So a lot going on when you come to, like you said, from the aspect of what I call the military athlete for the most part. So of course, I applaud you doing your piece as to contribute to it. So are you playing any games, or are you playing the celebrity game, or are you playing any games you continue to swing the bat?
Man, as much as I want to, just running the show, man, beats you down enough, man. It's people, really don't get behind the curtain and see all the effort that it takes to manage and put on these different things for veterans and service members, man. So, as much as I would like to and have the time and energy to do so, I really just don't have it anymore. The desire to play is still there between the years, but the effort that it takes to do that is kind of beyond me. But I used to play for the Fort Sam basketball team back in the day when I was still active duty, and always been a part of. I was at Fort Polk, so I played on the Fort Polk softball team and played intramurals there, and played at Fort Carson, and just military sports has always been a part of my life. And now that I'm on the twilight of my career, I guess I would say, I just like supporting it for others, and making it easier for people to participate, because as we all know, it's sometimes difficult to get the MWR funds to pay for travel and pay for entry fees, and especially covering the cost for lower enlisted guys that don't have the funds or the tenure of years in service to where some of that travel is a little easier. We just try to lift that burden, right? And just if we can cover an entry fee into the tournament, and that's $500 you don't have to come out of your pocket for the team. You can use that for travel expenses or food or hotels or whatever. We're glad to do it. So and then hopefully we keep growing and can keep providing that for more teams, right? And that's what I spend my time doing. Going to meetings with companies, big companies, small companies, it doesn't matter. It's every dollar helps in going back into supporting that cause. So it's we've met from just this week with USAAs and HEBs and big companies here in San Antonio to small mom and pop shops that are trying to find their way as well. So it's just every little bit helps, and we put that back into supporting the military sporting community.
And that's what it's all about. So I definitely have a idea what I'm gonna hit you up with. I'll call you later about it in reference to. So continuing, and which what, if Bishop was on right now, man, I know what he would be saying, because he doesn't, like you was just saying. For me, I have to say that same inkling in which but across many different platforms. Like if I had to go play softball, I'll play softball. I play basketball. I play football, whatever case like that. But it's only probably like you just said, it's probably only a little left. So I don't, as opposed to go and expend it all, like I have to pick the spots in which I haven't played any type of sport I haven't played any sport since 2016. So I have a lot in the reserve, but I know once that reserve goes in, it's going to be a depletion real quick. So I have to wait and use it at the right moment in which I'll be keeping trying to tell Bishop. Of course, he continued to play longer than I did, of course, Bishop is older than me too. But he continued to play longer than I did. So for the most part, like I might have a little more left because I haven't used anything. Because once I left JBLM and I got to Fort Polk, I didn't play at Fort Polk. Like I was there. I was a year at Fort Polk in which I didn't play not a single intramural sports. I would go out there and look, but I didn't play any. So that was a lot. And then even in JBLM, it wasn't a huge thing. So I didn't play much there as opposed to playing. I played downtown in some leagues, and then I played a little in the for intramural sports, and then for the installation for flag football to go play up against the Navy. So, but it was enough to keep me. So now, what I keep on telling Bishop, I know he keep on trying to deter me, and he's like, "No, it's like no, I got I got a little for one more round." And which I'm gonna have to try to line it up to where it's like one that's like okay, because when it's over, and then it's time that I sit on the sideline with the rest of y'all and sit up and be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. So, but I got a little more, I think.
Yeah, where's old Bishop, man?
I'm very sure he's probably gonna tap in when he gets from the he's probably at the gym right now. So he usually comes in a little after he gets it, depending on where he get it from the gym, coming from the gym.
He need to be at the gym.
And that's what he do for the most. So he be there. He does a lot going to the gym and going there trying to keep up. So I'm very sure he's probably at the gym and he'll end up coming in with some.
I know it's about time for a health and welfare on him. You know, I know you've been talking crazy on here, so you know it's about time for that check-in.
Yeah, definitely, because he be on. But you know what? For whatever everyone loves him, because Bishop says some of the most outlandish things sometimes. And like if I say a certain thing, they sit up and jump on me and act like I sit up and say something like I smacked their moms. Bishop can say the same thing, and it's like, oh, really? I was like, I couldn't believe it. All week long, we said we was waiting for Bishop after Philadelphia got drugged in the Super Bowl. So I'm sitting up, we waiting for Bishop. Everyone's like, oh, where's Bishop at? Where's Bishop at? Oh, he ain't show up. And I'm sitting up like, oh, and then so when he finally shows up, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's about to go down. He said one thing, and everyone's like, oh, you know, right? You know what? You got a point there. I'm like, no, y'all didn't. Y'all sit up and waiting for this man, and when he finally shows up, now he sit up and give y'all a heartstring story, and this is what y'all do.
Yeah,
I was like, you know, what I'm saying, I said something accidentally. They misinterpreted me saying that Steph Curry, that Klay Thompson was a better shooter. I mean, well, it's subjective, but they misinterpreted me saying that Klay Thompson was better than Steph Curry, and they was ready to feed me to the wolves. And I thought to myself, like, that Bishop had said that, it would have been a whole thing. Like, you know what, Bishop, you might have a point. His percentage, I was like, y'all is crazy, man. I was like, but you know what I'm saying, it is what it is, of course. So NBA, San Antonio, is it what is the
it's a rebuilding decade. That's what it is. It's a rebuilding decade, okay? Just let us have our 10 years of rebuild, okay?
Rebuild, that's what it is. Yeah, 10 years, had 10 years of excellence, and now it's 10 years of rebuild.
We're in the rebuild phase. So, you know,
So what's funny is Bishop, like, I don't know, again, like you said, Bishop saying the most outlandish things. We was having a conversation the other day, or here actually, and Bishop was like, hey, man, he said, the names he said was Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. I think we talked about Shaq. And then do you know he had the audacity and throws up his hands and be like, what about Robert Horry?
Big Shot Bob, baby. Big Shot Bob.
No. Do you think Robert Horry should be mentioned in those names when we talk about championships due to the fact that he has 7 championships? Last league, of course, with the San Antonio Spurs.
You know, it's definitely an accomplishment, right? To win 7 championships, right? But I mean,
correct.
If you're not a key contributor, you know, you're the 11th guy on the bench for those last couple. I don't know if those those kind of get tossed in there as just consolation championships, maybe. But yeah, I mean, obviously when he was with the Lakers, he was a huge contributor. Hit a bunch of big shots for them, but I think towards the end of his career, it was what a lot of guys do, right? Take money and try to get that ring, right? So, I definitely don't think he's in the conversation of Klay Thompson.
I tried to tell him, man. I tried to tell him. I was like, bro,
no.
But like you said,
that's like saying Danny Green is in that conversation. Danny Green's been on a bunch of teams that have, won championships, but what did he contribute, right? I mean, he did contribute when he was with the Spurs. Yeah, but he went and got one with the Lakers, and then he got Toronto. One in Toronto, right? So it's like, what did he do there?
Basically, they seemingly used the same process. So, in saying that, how much emphasis or prowess do we give to the championship when we start talking about players and Hall of Fames? Like, does a championship really hold that much weight in your opinion?
Well, it does to people that vote on it, for sure. So if you're talking about people that actually are the ones who vote into the Hall of Fame, they want people that have won championships, the ultimate pinnacle, right? But I think in the big scheme of it, the championship doesn't matter as much as the numbers, right? I mean, everybody's talking about LeBron now being the scoring champion, but he hasn't had as many wins in championship games as Michael Jordan, right? So it's like, so which one do we value more? Like, you have to have the championship, but you also have to have the numbers that back up that you were a great player. So, and you see it in baseball all the time too, right? Guys that hit a bunch of home runs, but struck out a whole bunch of times too, right? And you can't even really factor in the steroid era of baseball either, because none of those guys are getting in as long as the people that protect the Hall of Fame are there as well. So
it's hellacious to get into the Hall of Fame. They are bad over there, bro. Yeah. Like, the Baseball Hall of Fame it's like the Illuminati at this point. Like, you like, goodness gracious. Yeah. Do you think Pete Rose ever gets? Do you think he ever is going to be someone to break that curse?
I don't think Pete Rose gets in while he's alive.
Oh, wow.
I don't think so. I think that they're going to hold that against him, and as long as he's alive. But I think eventually, because you even have like the Reggie Bush scenario, right, where he was getting paid and getting money, and then now everybody in college can get money, right? So the game eventually evolves, to a standard that it's already at, right? Like, so, guys were getting paid a whole bunch of money under the table to play college football. Well, now it's encouraged, right? Now people want you to get paid, because now that brings more notoriety to the school, and, more people buy tickets, and you're a up and coming player that gets all these NIL deals. Well, we chastised Reggie Bush for that and took away national championships and
the whole Miami University scandal and all that. Yeah. Like, people have been the death penalty in SMU. Like, it's
but now, like, it's encouraged, right? So, you take the whole baseball era, a steroid era of baseball. I think a lot of those guys are going to get in eventually, just because as time passes, people are going to forget about it, and they're going to go back and look at the numbers and be like, no, these guys were really good players in an era where everybody was doing X.
Something.
So, they should be in, right? So, but I think for Pete, just since he gambled on the game and bet on his own team, I don't think that it will be enough time before he ends up dying that people will be far enough beyond it to let him in. But tremendous baseball player.
Pete didn't bet on his team in a losing effort, did he? It was always winning, correct? Or was
correct?
It
yeah. But still,
but betting, but still betting. He could And that's unfortunate. So and then when you just like you said, other ones like we got the Mark McGuires, like you said, the Sammy Sosas, the Palmeiros,
Barry
even
Bonds, man. I mean,
Barry Bonds,
I mean,
Alex Rodriguez, like all these
yeah.
people. I can imagine what it's like sitting there and every year knowing that you're not like Barry Bonds still has traction. Alex Rodriguez doesn't get much traction. To see your brethren that have gotten in and watched them and be like, yo, I'm not going to get in or yet again. I wonder how does that make them feel when, especially I know someone probably be like, I was a whole lot better than this individual. BGO.
But the crazy part is in that time where baseball was dying, that's what saved baseball.
That's
like,
what saved baseball.
People tuned in to watch people hit home runs, and I don't think MLB will ever come out and say that it was encouraged, but I don't think it was discouraged for them to not be using performance enhancing drugs, because it was creating the buzz around the game that had MLB made a lot of money off of it.
What do you say? What do you say to the situation to where it basically say the PED versus me swinging the bat and being able to connect with the ball, where they do or don't match? What do you say to that conversation for the most part from your standpoint?
Well, Barry Bonds was hitting home runs before PEDs, right? So, yes. I mean, he was PEDs make you hit the ball farther. Like,
yes,
it makes the ball travel further because now you're stronger and more capable of hitting the ball. But it doesn't make you hit the ball any better because they're already Major League Baseball players that are very good at hitting the ball, So they had that talent before they ever got there and started using performance enhancing drugs. Now it's just traveling further and creating more of a buzz that draws people to the stands. It draws more ticket purchasers. It draws more people, buying food at the concession stand and drinking beer and coming out to the games, which, sports is a business. When you're on the business side of sports is a business. And all these owners, cash in at the bank every time when fans come out, buy tickets, come to the game, buy apparel, buy beer, buy hot dogs and nachos and all that, right? Like it all goes into it.
I often wonder what would have been. I mean, of course, there's smaller people that have gotten the same attention, like we just said, mentioned some of those names. But I wonder would it have been so much more if said players like Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, Barry Bonds, if they hadn't bulked up so much to where it's like, yo, we just watched this man be about 220 pounds. Now he looked like he done put on like 30 pounds of muscle. And all that, I wonder would that have made a difference, or would it have kept it at bay a little bit? Because, like I said, we got the Alex Rodriguez's, the Palmeiros that wasn't that huge, and it ended up coming out and being said. So I wonder had they not put on that weight and the bulk and the muscle, would it have been a different conversation? Because it came on and like out of nowhere compared to what they were before to where they were by the end of their careers.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely probably would have been less noticeable, but the ball still travels that far, regardless. Yes. So I mean, it's just you're going to see it in the spike in the numbers, but like I said, I don't think professional sports wants to diminish that at the time because they're cashing in, and people are tuning in, so it's making them money. On the back end, they want to say, oh well, we didn't know about this, or we had no knowledge, or we discouraged it. Well, how you discourage it? You test for it. The UFC is huge on testing their athletes. They even have 50 clean tests. You get a jacket, from USADA. So if you really want a clean sport, you test for it.
It's funny that you say the UFC. What did you think about the heavyweight bout that took place last weekend?
John Jones is really good at MMA. So, that, and I don't think Cyril Gane
after 3 years, bro, 3 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, Cyril Gane's talented, but I really wanted to see Jones and Nagano, yeah, man. I mean that, I think that's probably the ultimate test. But I just don't think we'll ever see it. But
No, Value wants money. He wants to get paid.
yeah, well, and I will say, man, I think the Stipe fight will be a little tougher than Jones thinks, man. Stipe's a good fighter. He can take some damage, and he's got decent wrestling and decent stand up. So, I'm a huge MMA fan. Obviously, Kamaru and Edwards are fighting next weekend. My buddy Justin Gagey's on the card too.
Oh, he's fighting on that card. I haven't looked at the card, but I do know that that fight is going on.
Yeah. So Justin's the co-main event on that. So
okay.
So yeah, they just got to London yesterday. So that's going to be another great card. I think it's going to be tough for Usman to be in England. Fighting the hometown guy, but Kamaru is really good too. And I've actually been to Denver when him and Justin are in camp, and it's nuts, man. Those guys are just very, very talented.
So if Usman is able to pull this one out, do you think it's going to be, for one, first let me ask this question. What do you think about the defending your first title defense is versus who you took the title from? Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, man. God. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I think it depends, right? Like,
okay,
Usman had the title and defended it 8 times, right? So,
yes.
He's an 8-time defending champion. You beat me, I should get a rematch. Now
you should be the first in the shoot to get the rematch
for sure. Yeah, yeah. Especially, I will say, especially the way Edwards won, because Usman was winning that fight.
Yeah, true.
So Usman was winning that whole fight, and he got caught. In MMA, like, you can get caught. Anybody can get caught on any given day. So now, I think if you just won the belt and the guy had just won it prior to, like, he won it, his first defense, I win it, I don't think he gets another shot. I think he's got to go fight a couple guys to get another shot.
Make your way back up the ring.
Yeah, if you've defended the belt 5 to 10 times, something like that, I think you get a shot back to get your title back. But
because when you look at it, that's the same thing with Teixeira and Alessandre. Like, he's the first person in the shoot to sit up and get it
for sure.
The rematch. When you look at all this, I'm like, it's like same thing with Grasso. It's like, when she was asked, does she get the rematch? And Shevchenko was like, I should get the rematch. It's like, come on, I just beat you. Let me sit up and go through some people and then make your way back up. Man, look at it. Because especially like you was just saying, when it came down to Usman, it was a matter of minutes, seconds, in which he was going to basically, he probably had his hand held up, and then he got slipped. So what I was about to ask is, do you think it's going to be a situation to where maybe if Usman gets the belt back, do we have a situation where you definitely just happen to catch me and you really couldn't beat me? Because this is what, their third fight?
Yeah. This is the trilogy. So yeah, I think whoever wins this one moves on to someone else, right? I don't think Edwards gets the rematch if he beats Usman, and if Usman wins, I don't think. I think he moves on to somebody else. If Edwards wins, Usman definitely doesn't get a rematch, right? I beat you twice.
You might not even see him again ever unless he's just Usman just tears through the division and gets his way back and is like, here we go with number 4. Or unless someone else was able to get, because when we think about it, it was before Usman, it was what's his name? He fought Paul. What's my man's name? The champion for Usman was
that guy.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so he held it for a while. Then Usman knocked him off, like you said, 8 title defenses by Usman, and then he comes back in which he comes back and then got slept with and we was watching that, man. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, it'd be stuff like that happens. But it's like, but was it a lucky kick or was it a time place kick to where he knew this was a possibility, and now he wins the championship, and now he gets a chance to defend it. But I got to defend it against the man who I took it from. It's like I just went. This man almost. This man almost beat me. We win at it. It's like so, but we'll see, of course. And then same thing was Israel. He gets an opportunity, like you said, the big money fights. They're making their way, so people are starting to really take a look at it. So, from the money aspect, I could get it. I just don't think for me as a fighter, I might be like, yo, I'm not trying to do that. Not yet. Let him fight his way back up, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Some of these guys have the clause, though. You know, they get the rematch clause if they lose. It just depends on what's in their contract. So, you know, sometimes even though they may not deserve it, they're going to get it if they want it because it's in their contract. So, you know, it just depends. But it'll be a great card. It's a pretty stacked card. Then the weekend after that, UFC Fight Nights here in San Antonio.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah. So we'll go check that out. And we got one of our local guys here that's a supporter, CJ Vergara. He's on that card. My buddy James Vick is coaching a guy out of Dallas on that card. So there'll be quite a few people here local that are supporters of what we do that are in MMA as well. So it'll be pretty cool.
Okay, and I haven't been to a UFC or an MMA a fight, let alone whether it's UFC or any of the other ones. I remember going while I was in JBM, going to it just happened to be ESPN Fight Night that night, in which I was there, and that was pretty interesting, especially once you see someone get knocked out. So I've been looking for. So I don't know, maybe if I gotta see. I think. Do I have anything going on next weekend? I had to see, but I did when I was looking at what's the upcoming fights. I did see. I was like, oh, okay, they're in San Antonio. So then having that. So shifting a little bit. So in the news lately, we have had a lot of athletes that have been engaged in things having to do with firearms. We had the situation with John Morant. Yeah, the situation with Sean Kemp just the other day, and then now Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
As an athlete, if you were that athlete in those predicaments, would you be caught with said firearm in your hand in any of those situations?
And it's that's a tough one because I live in Texas. And Texas, it's strongly encouraged. So I think one thing you have to do is be smart enough to know the laws of the state that you live in. So I think that's one thing, because as a resident Texan, never leave home without it. But but you know, if I lived in New York or another city or state, that Illinois, where you know firearms are discouraged, then you know, I think I have to be smart enough to know my surroundings, right? And you would think as a multi-millionaire athlete that I would have people around me smart enough to, you know, make sure that it's not me and maybe it's them, right? You know, so, you know, I don't encourage breaking the law, but I encourage being educated on the limits of the law and where you're at and what you're doing. You know, obviously, you know, a firearm in a strip club or nightclub where, you know, alcohol is more than 51% of their business, you know, you can't carry a firearm there anyway. So regardless of the state, right? Even in Texas. So, you know, you got to be educated. If you're going to carry firearms, you got to be educated and you got to be trained on how to use it, right? Not just out here willy-nilly shooting up mall people at the parking lot, right? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So
what is wrong?
You know,
I was like, this is for real, really, Sean? This is what we do?
Yeah.
Joe Mixon supposedly shooting at 11-year-old kids.
Yeah. So you know, like I said, man, I'm a huge proponent of firearms. I carry myself. Obviously, our organization does outdoors hunting and fishing. So you know, we're very involved in the outdoors, but I will say that there, even as veterans, you know, people that carried firearms for a living in our job in the military, we're not always the best shooters. We're not as proficient as we think we are. So I just think in the firearms discussion, you have to be training, you have to be educated, and you have to be smart.
I agree, and that's what I'm about to say. The parameters, like you said, this is what y'all do as an organization in Hero Sports. But of course, you have professionals that are, teach the right way and show, show the proper way where it makes a complete difference as opposed to anyone just going off, like you said, Sean Kemp letting off shots in the parking lot in broad daylight.
Yeah. No, granted, like if he's getting assaulted, if he's getting assaulted,
self-defense, because he said he's self-defense. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's self-defense, then 100% warranted, right? But just be popping off at the road rage. Someone says something to you that you don't like out in public. Now I'm just going to shoot them up. I mean, it's just not smart, and now you're not only risking your personal welfare, but the welfare of others. So
correct. So moving back into NFL real quick. Of course, there's a couple of things out there. Like I said, one, first and foremost, the New Orleans Saints have asked Jameis Winston to restructure his contract. So obviously they want to keep Jameis Winston in the fold as the backup.
Yeah.
In your opinion, and looking at that, would that be Mike Barker, GM for the New Orleans Saints? Would that be your mindset? Like, would you want to keep Jameis Winston around as your backup now that you have Derek Carr in the fold, or would you be looking elsewhere? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, obviously, Jameis Winston is an insurance policy, right?
Correct.
Derek Carr, although he's a great player, he's kind of streaky too, right? And
yes,
he's not a mobile quarterback where Jameis Winston kind of gives you that wrinkle. But I think if you move Jameis Winston and you don't get something in return for it, I mean, now your backup is
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. So I mean, I don't think that improves your team at all. He's better a dynamic player in the slot or tight ends, slash whatever wherever you put him. He's definitely not your backup quarterback. So, I mean, I think probably we're keeping Jameson as an insurance policy, or hey, let him battle it out at OTAs, right?
Yeah, he's like, don't just give Derek Carr the job. Like, okay, you
gotta earn it. Yeah, everything in this life is earned, man. You gotta earn that stuff.
What do you think about the whole Derek Carr to New Orleans situation?
I mean, I think it's great for New Orleans. Now you have two potential starting quarterbacks that are going to battle it out, and may the best man win. And the next guy holds the clipboard and ready to go in when his number's called. So, yeah. So I mean, Winston is another guy kind of like Taysom Hill too. Like you could put him out there in the formation and kind of get creative with your offense a little bit. I think you could do a lot of things with those two guys. But I'm not sold on Derek Carr, man. I'm not a huge Derek Carr fan.
I'm with you, brother, because for the life of me, I was like, why is Derek Carr this hot dude all of a sudden, whatever case like that? And we see, obviously, because he went from getting, I mean, we know because of the New Orleans cap situation too, they were like $90 million over the cap, and so they have to get it under it, and they needed to get another quarterback. But for the most part, Derek Carr, I look at that, I was like, for one, how did he become a $40 million quarterback? And then that's no sooner than he leaves, he goes back down to a $30 million quarterback. Although he has other things in place to set up and get him where he could potentially, he's supposed to make a guaranteed $62 million this year. But it's like, how did that become Derek Carr? 10 years in with Las Vegas. In which he turned around, he holds all the records there, but like I'm with you. I'm not sold on Derek Carr.
I mean, that offense that they had last year, like y'all should have been killing it. You had Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Wallen, like all these studs, and you're the guy that's supposed to be getting them the rock, and we can't win, and then you get benched. I don't know, man. I'm not.
And now
sold
he
on
has
it.
and now he has more, if the same, if not more. I mean, he doesn't have a tight end in the caliber of Waller, but I mean, they can bring someone in like that, especially when they look at what he did, depending on what offense Dennis Allen is going to run that time around. But I mean, he has. I mean, depending on what happens with Kamara, he got Olave, he has Landry, he has Kamara if he comes back when he comes back, Michael Thomas when he comes back if he comes back, like he's and then Allen who was with Carr at one point before when he was with the Raiders. So it's it might be up for him. It might end up playing out more than we think. So I guess more to come.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I'm not sold on Derek Carr as the starting franchise quarterback. So I think it's an insurance policy either way. You got two guys that could be starters, and if one doesn't pan out, the other guy can step in and fill that role. But I'm not a Derek Carr fan. So
another story that came out: the Vikings have released Adam Thielen.
Yeah,
in his 9th season. So Thielen, I think. Do you think someone like Thielen, his caliber, if depending on he gets in someone's offense to where he's not a 2, where he's a slot, do you think he can be pretty more effective that way, or do you think his career is done?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player, but he's not great, So I mean, yeah, I mean, I think he's a good 2-3 guy. Could probably play the slot someplace, and be kind of like a Ricky Prohl or
Ricky Prohl, Welker, Edelman, those
Welker,
types.
Carson, Cup, whatever, Cooper Cup, type guy. Yeah, I mean, man, it's just amazing how much bigger, faster, stronger these guys get every year, and if you're not keeping up, man, you're keeping out. So, I mean, they had that kid from Georgia the other day, ran the freaking 4.39 at like 6'5",
defensive end.
Yeah, like 6'5", 260 pounds running a 4.39, man. Like, I mean, I played college football 20 years ago, and you had none of that. You didn't have wide receivers running 4.39s. Now you got defensive ends running 4.39s, man. That's
chasing you down from behind.
Yeah, it's nuts, man.
Being able to keep up with you in coverage.
Well, and that's why the life expectancy of a running back is so short now, right? I mean, it's just everybody else is bigger, faster, stronger. So yeah,
it's crazy because now you sit up and look at it. Now the franchise tag of the top 5 top 5 running backs, top paid running backs, is $10 million. That is like, just think about that. Not too long ago, Le'Veon Bell was trying to get 16 million plus. Now everything is down. So definitely, like you said, the expectancy of a running back, even the value of a running back has greatly diminished to where you have to be multi-purpose, which that comes in like the Alvin Kamara's and the Christian McCaffreys.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be able to be multi-purpose. Derek Carr, power back, shopped. Leonard Fournette, another power back, released. And like these players, like it's Josh Jacobs. He's a French. I mean, he's a leading rusher, 1,600 yards.
Yeah.
He sit up and has to get franchise tag. They wouldn't even sign him to a deal, or I don't know what necessarily what was the take. But the running back, like you said, is depending on who you are, is only a few that can garner and pull anything, especially when now you have the running back by committee situation that goes on, which a lot of teams seem to be going to.
Yeah. And I even saw something the other day that said that the Titans might be trying to move Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like a prototypical running back now, big, huge dude that can carry people, 3-4 yards. But now they're even thinking about moving him. And who was it the other day that I saw? Another running back. Zeke Elliott. Dallas is thinking about moving on from him. It's like, 7-8 years ago, this dude was a freak, man. Like nobody could stop him.
Yeah,
So
everyone wanted Zeke.
yeah.
Everything was Zeke. He was even able to parlay into a contract. And speaking of that, do you think, for the most part, I mean, exception to some, do you think that becomes the aspect is when a player gets that money, when they secure that bag, it's like, oh well, I'm just going to do whatever now, and they kind of like slack off a little bit.
Yeah, you see it. The numbers don't lie. So,
The only
you know,
one who keeps like, of course, I think Patrick Mahomes has continued to play what he has to do.
yeah. Well, he's still
But,
young though. He's still
yeah.
fresh in it. You know, let him we'll have this conversation in 6 years and see. You know,
when,
if,
he still got 3 years on his contract, like, man, I'm good, bro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And after they sign that next big one, man, then it's like, all right, I can coast a little bit. Life's good. You know, I've kind of done my thing, and you see it. You see it in the output.
mm-hmm. Speaking back to what you was talking about being in Texas, not necessarily San Antonio, but the Texans, of course, lose a draft pick because they violated the cap. They violated the cap violation with Deshaun Watson. It's crazy how you continue to have to go behind things because Deshaun Watson. Of course, what it was noted is that supposedly Deshaun Watson was getting services at another facility, athletic facility. I think 200 over
He was
200.
getting lots of services apparently.
We'll put him in a position. He was getting services at this other place in which he didn't report. And so the NFL continued and they did their investigation and found that they weren't support. They violated uh, their cap restrictions. So now it has cost them a 5th-round pick overall and some money because initially they were fined for it and then they came back with something to amount for it. So the NFL gave him back some money and gave him a compensatory 7th-round pick. But then the investigation continued and they found that no, you were in violation. And so now they have rescinded and taken a pick again, as well as gave him a fine, a $250,000 fine, I think. It could just happen. So with that being said, the Vikings have the number, not the Vikings, the Texans have the number 2 and number 12 pick. They got a new head coach, defensive coordinator, everything like that. Where do you see the Texans at this year this upcoming NFL season? You see them better than the last year?
Well, I don't know if they can be much worse. So, I think it depends on their draft too. You know, I think they're in the Bryce Young conversation if he's there. I think that's their pick if he's there at the 2 spot. I think that's what the way that they'll go. Just being a dynamic player but I mean, there again, it's kind of like Tua and stature. He's 5'10", 5'11". Can throw the ball, and he can move a little bit. But man, I'm telling you, when you get hit by a 6'5" dude that's 265 and can run a 4.39, that hurts. It doesn't feel good, man. And you do that 18 weeks out of your life, man. It starts to take a toll on you. So, I think they'll go Bryce Young probably at 2 if he's there. But yeah, they need a QB, obviously. Davis Mills is definitely proven he's not the guy. They got
unfortunate,
they got Nico Collins who's played well with a lackluster offense, and they have a little bit of a running game. So I think if they got a good QB, they could be in the mix at least to be better.
I actually thought they were going to, which I think is a potential to take a shot at Jimmy G. Do you think Jimmy G would be? Of course, still draft your quarterback, and someone like a Jimmy G can be the person to bring in. But do you think Jimmy Garoppolo would be a good fit in Houston?
Yeah, I think he could be a good fit. And that's the hard part, right? These guys are coming off of surgery. Him and Trey Lance, you don't know what they're going to be like after having surgery last year. So, you hope that Purdy's the guy. He did well in the stead, but now what happens with San Francisco? We got Trey Lance and Purdy both there. Garoppolo's out. But yeah, I mean, as far as Garoppolo going to Houston, I think that would be a great move for the Texans. He's a proven veteran quarterback. Why not? It can't
I think what
be any worse than Deshaun Watson.
And so I think a lot of times when we look at it, where I've been looking at it, there some of these teams don't have weapons like would be outside of Pierce.
Yeah.
What they're like the receiving core is similar to that in Baltimore, I guess you could say. Even though Baltimore had a little more with Bateman, so they have what's Andrews there and stuff like that. I also had thought about potentially Jimmy maybe going to the Raiders, maybe, but I mean, we don't know. I guess we won't know until after free agency, which free agency starts next week. We'll start to see how things start to turn out after the next week, to where you see where these quarterbacks is going. And then, like I said, the carousel at the top of the hour, he's like the quarterback carousel is amongst us. And we had that. So additionally, today, Odell Beckham Jr. will be holding tryouts. Holding a workout for teams.
Yeah.
Do you think is this a last ditch effort because there's really nothing going on for a player now that you're holding tryouts? You're holding workouts for teams to come and see how you look and how you look now.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the last ditch effort?
I thought he was going to get signed last year. I thought somebody was going to pick him up to kind of make that playoff run. But, obviously he seems to be in great shape. I saw a little video of him this morning making one-handed catches and with tie-dye hair and looking pretty spiffy, I guess. So, obviously he's a talented guy. I think he'll be a great asset to a team that doesn't have a great receiving core, that he could come in and be that veteran guy. The hard part is he wants to go to a contender, right? So most contenders kind of already have their quarterback / receiver, tandems. Yeah. So I know they were talking this morning possibly, him going to the Bills and being, opposite Stephon Diggs, and you got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and OBJ. That's not a bad tandem. So, and then they also were talking about maybe going to Dallas, and hopefully, Michael Gallup has a better season, and he was coming off of ACL surgery last year. So, wasn't quite as healthy as he could have been. And you add an OBJ to the mix, and maybe everybody plays better in Dallas. But, everybody, as they get towards the end of their career, they want to win a championship. So, yeah, I think his mindset is I only want to go to a contender. I don't want to just play.
So another thing that came up as I was reading some things at the top before we tapped in, the rivalry. So in your aspect, what is a rivalry? What determines a rivalry from your point of view?
Obviously there usually there's a history of playing each other. But then obviously there's rivalries that are created, right? So, I think you see a little bit of that in the NBA now, where, an up and coming Memphis team is starting to kind of get a rivalry with like the Lakers, right? And, Memphis is kind of creating a little rivalry with Golden State because they have been playing a little bit better now. So, but traditionally a rivalry is teams that have played each other year in, year out, and we just don't like you, right? Like, we don't like you because you're good. We just don't like you because we're Michigan and you're Ohio State, or we're Auburn, you're Alabama. So regardless if you're good or bad, we just don't like you. And that's usually where rivalries stem from. But, now in this day and age of social media, I think a lot of rivalries are created through talking trash on social media.
And so, which is interesting because you have Jamon Green, which this is stem from in reference to him and Dylan Brooks going back and forth, in which Dylan Brooks spoke to that being a rivalry. And Draymond, that was Draymond's exact thing. He's like, this isn't a rivalry. He's like, he's like, what have y'all won? He's
Yeah.
like, y'all have won nothing. Saying that, of course, the Golden State Warriors for 4 championships, in which he's been there for all 4 championships, and saying that y'all haven't won anything. So what is it? How there's no rivalry there, of course. Draymond talking about how Dylan Brooks tried to bait him into a technical foul, in which he said, "We're not the same. I bait people into technical fouls. I don't get baited into technical fouls. I get technical fouls when I want to and how I want to, and things of that nature." And going in a whole spiel. So I was like, you know what? Let me get Mike's perception of what a rivalry is to further see, like, is Draymond just being Draymond, or is there something behind what he's saying, in which he states that he feels like there is no rivalry between the Warriors and Memphis, based on Memphis has not won championships, but they have won games lately. Even last night, a blowout of the Golden State Warriors without said John Morant. So,
yeah. As my good buddy Corey Anderson, who fights in Bellator, says, there's levels to this. There's levels to this, right? and Memphis is trying to be the Golden States, the upper echelon NBA teams, right? They're trying to claw their way up there, and they're not quite there yet, but they're making a little noise. They
are
now that John Morant's out, though. Like, what are they going to do? The rest of the season, I don't know. Depends on how long he stays out, I think, but
4 games. I think they said he's going to be out because he of course, we know he went through the NBA, did an investigation, a reference to what we was talking about at the beginning, where he Denver's laws on being in a club with alcohol over 50%, in which it was wondering how did he get the pistol if it was a away game. So that was another thing, violating the CBA, carrying a weapon onto an NBA property. Was also potentially going to be a no-go. So, but they said they did the investigation. The investigation, he's not going to have any charges from the investigation. However, they did add some more games, so he's going to miss at least the next 4 games and not be able to play. So he's going to be going for the next 4 games.
Yeah,
but they won last night, which is one of the 4 games. So they might be able to hold on while he's gone.
Yeah, I just don't think that Memphis quite has enough clout yet to be a rival of the Warriors, right?
Okay.
I think if it was like the Celtics or somebody who has been playing well, has won a championship recently, now we're rivals because we're both competing for the same end goal. Yeah, but I think the Grizzlies with Ja Morant, they're going to make some noise in the playoffs, so they're playing well right now. Obviously he's a superstar, highlight reel every week.
Oh yeah. Potential. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, they're a different team with him. And I think, they go to the championship, maybe not even win it, but they go, now I think that they're becoming a rival, because they're starting to back up that trash talk, right? It's but right now I think it's just a lot of noise, chirping at guys that have been there, trying to get a little attention.
And so, of course, like you just said, with them potentially going to the championship, but not winning it, of course, that means they have to slay the Western teams. One of the Western teams can be, of course, Phoenix Suns, with newly acquired not LeBron James, newly acquired Kevin Durant. But Kevin, just like LeBron, out 3 weeks potentially, due to a lower extremity in a freak accident situation where he slipped during warm-ups and almost stood on his ankle minus the foot. Ankle injury, out 2 to 3 weeks. That got to be a tough blow. As I said, I didn't think that Phoenix was going to be able to do anything for the most part with that tandem this year, only because they have just been put together late in the year.
Yeah.
Now you add this situation. I wonder how it's going to be, or if it's going to make a difference. So when you look at this, the landscape with the injuries, LeBron is out currently. The Lakers have been still winning, of course, due to what they did at the trade deadline and bringing in talent and moving other talent. Now, seemingly, it looks like the Clippers are winning. They just got a dub last night against the Raptors. Do you think we're getting to the point to where the superstar isn't necessarily needed anymore for teams to win? And I know it's not across all teams, but for the most part, some teams. Do you think we get to the point to where the superstar isn't necessarily needed, and teams are starting to pick up the mantra of we can win, they're just another man?
Well, I guess that means that we're considering LeBron James a superstar then, right?
I
Gotcha. Obviously, yeah. I mean, you need the superstars, right, to go deep into the playoffs. But at the same time, you need a bench, right? And I don't think the Suns. They're starting.
They gave up their bench.
Yeah, their starting five is great, but
yeah,
you talk about 5-game series, 6-game series, 7-game series. It takes a toll on you, man. You've already played 82 games. Obviously, they're not playing these last 3 weeks or whatever, but being nicked up going into the playoffs and then having to play all these games back to back to back with no bench, it takes a toll, man. And basketball is a tremendous team sport, and you need guys that can come in and be, they have a 6th man of the year award for a reason, right? You come off the bench and you fill that role. So you gotta have depth, and in order to win the championship. So you gotta have superstars, but you gotta have depth now.
So getting back into your event this weekend, you said duels? What is duels exactly?
So the military dual softball tournaments are Friday. You play all military tournament against all military teams, and then on Saturday, Sunday, in this particular tournament, they mix the military teams with the civilian teams. So you actually play 2 tournaments within one weekend. So you have just the military tournament on Friday. You'll have a military winner, and then on Saturday, Sunday, you'll have a winner from the mixed bracket of military and civilian teams. Now, the other one that we go to in the military duel at Columbus, Georgia, that's an all-military tournament, but it's a military duel where you play your level. So you have military A, military B, intramurals. So you play all of those teams within one bracket, one day. And then what they do is they combine the bracket. So you play A, B, intramurals all in one bracket. And that's a separate tournament that you have a winner for as well. So you actually just play 2 tournaments within one weekend. And, it showcases guys that maybe are playing intramurals or B, playing against an A team. And it gets them a look at teams that, are wanting to get some better quality guys to have them move up and play a little bit better competition. So, sometimes, if I'm on a varsity team, so to speak, or a travel team, you don't always get to see some of the guys that play in some of the lower brackets that are looking for an opportunity to bump up. So, and when you play the dual tournaments, I like those because now you're playing everybody from all different sometimes the B team knocks off the A team, right? So it showcases guys that, hey man, we can play at this level, if we play well and play together. So but it's military sports, it's a huge camaraderie event as well, and just getting together, having a good time playing the game.
So who you said? So who are the top? If you was to say just from yourself, not necessarily in particular order, who are your top 3 military teams that's out there right now?
Man, and the military A division, man, the HB sports team's really good. They won I think 3 out of 4 tournaments last year. They've put together quite a squad. Obviously our military A team, the Hero Sports team, we combined with GI this year. So they should have a pretty stout squad as well. There's BTA that has a great squad out of off the East Coast. There's Militia, another team out of Florida that's really. I mean, there are some really talented softball players from the military, whether they're active duty or veterans, and a lot of them play on the conference level, which conference guys for the most part, if they're not getting paid to play softball, most of or all of their travel is paid. So these guys are professional softball players that are playing at a high level across the country. So and you have a lot of those that are within the military program. So there's a lot of good ballers. Maybe that's another reason why I don't play either. maybe the talent's just gotten a lot better than me.
I got a lot better.
yeah. But yeah, I mean,
hence the reason why divisions get created. Like, we creating this division so that way you can make sure that you have an opportunity to continue to be great.
Yeah, well, see, like softball is different, like than basketball, right? Like, every post team created basketball team, whether they carry the post name or not. You get one, right? There's one basketball team and that's it. Well, in softball, you can have guys that are all stationed at the same place. One of them plays A, one of them plays B, one of them plays intramural. And there's, they all practice together, but they play on 3 different teams and
different teams. Yeah.
So it's a good mix in softball where you have guys of all different talent levels. Still able to play with or against each other.
Yeah, and I see it a lot. That's one of the bigger, of course, I think it's one of the bigger sports on Fort Pope. As I look and go back and look and see it, and so of course, when the intramurals come out, it's always the competitiveness that goes into that. In which, like I said, I've seen teams that was going into getting their heads beat in, and then by the end of the season, it's a whole different story. You've seen a whole different team, and then over the course of the 2 to 3 years, or depending on if I have a dual season to where it's a spring and a summer league, or if I just run with one huge spring league, I watch teams like become better and better to where now they're the conversation of they're the better team, or when the season comes back around, they're the team, and there's always their organic team or their pure team to their unit, in which now I have open so that way it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be organic to your unit for that tournament. I mean, for that season, but then I have a tournament to where you have to be organic to your unit for that for that tournament. So it's interesting, but what it's seemingly starting to seem like is I try to avoid that because I don't like the talent pool to be diminished, and people be like, I'm not playing because we're just getting beat up. So now teams stop playing or they don't have enough people and all that type of stuff. But I mean, we're going to see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if you're playing true intramural league on post, you should play with your unit. It's esprit de corps and unit camaraderie, and you're competing for a common purpose outside of unit time. So but like if we're trying to create a team that's going to go play in Shreveport, or in Baton Rouge or New Orleans or somewhere else, right? Like now we want to represent the base and have a good team that puts out a good product. So yeah, we should put an all-star team kind of together to go do that. So I just think it depends on what you're competing for. But I mean, I played intramurals there with my unit, and sometimes you get whooped by better teams, but it's just sports isn't always meant to win.
Oh yeah, that point just brings it. Which interesting enough, some of the players since I have been there, the yesteryear since I've been there and been paying attention, it's a lot of those players, those teams, because it used to be a whole lot, but of course some have moved on, or maybe the interest levels are different in which we're starting to get. Those were the older ones that moved on, so now there's like some that are like coming in, and like some of these players aren't as vested or interested in it as the ones were before. So it becomes a different type of story. But it's definitely where I want to see. Like I said, we have our softball season starts in April, so we'll see in which someone came and asked me questions yesterday. It's like, hey, when does the season start? Yada yada yada. And then of course, like I said, someone asked me like, who's the post softball coach, in which I gave him a name. So it's just been different things. So, but it's always looks forward to it, but then middle through the year, I'm like, oh man, it's like here we go again, all these games and stuff. At one point, man, we had 4 fields going with the 3 time slots, like all 12 time slots was rocking, and I was like, goodness gracious, 12, saying 24 teams a night for 48 teams a week playing 48 games a week. I had to manage and stuff like that for over a 6-week period, and then we got down, and then of course, when the fields get wet, the field conditions is wretched and horrible. That's a whole nother thing, to where one time it rained so much to where I had to cancel the season and had to do like a 2-week long double elimination tournament, in which that still didn't fit the bill because it was teams that was like, Trey, we're not going to be able to play. And it was just, it was horrible. But we got through it, and it continued on from there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love intramural sports, man. I think it's a great thing for the bases to support.
Yeah, and then of course the support of the varsity teams, in which you're trying to get to next. But like you stated, funding is one thing to where it's just like there again, something you got to be invested in from a team standpoint, to be like, okay, we're going to spend this money, or this is what we're going to do, traveling to tournament after tournament. So it's everyone has the same issues and stuff like that across the board. So
yeah, well, I mean, I really don't know if the funding isn't there. If we really look at it,
that's true. You're right.
I think it's allocated sometimes to places that it shouldn't be going. So I think I think that's one of the conversations, right?
It comes out. So it does come out. Like you said, there's probably money there. But like you said, the allocation, true enough, the allocations, and like I was saying yesterday when I was talking to some of the coaches from the MBA, or in just in military basketball, like the allocation portion is a huge bit, to where the commanders and directors determine that this money that it goes to this organization, like $2,000. If I was to sit up and say, okay, Fort Polk, we giving you $2,000 for the year, I have to give $2,000 to the basketball team, $2,000 to the soccer team, $2,000 to a rugby team, to where now now my budget for varsity programming is $10,000.
Yeah.
But that's for a small microcosm of people who it affects, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, that $10,000 could have been used to where we could have put on an event in which it could have been a community event, which now puts us in a position to have a community partnership with someone outside of the installation, or bring together families and everything like that. So, and that's from what I'll be sitting in these meetings and listening. That's where the conversation supposedly went to, why basically varsity sports was expensive, and it was money that wasn't spent. Now, of course, it works for morale of a certain amount because those players are playing, but does it fit the bill for everyone from a perspective? And so, like you said, when you say allocation, it definitely is that the money is being allocated towards the other places, but to allocate that funds to there means we're taking away from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then if you take away from somewhere else, it's like, okay, you take away from somewhere else but they do like, okay, I have money that's sitting that I probably haven't touched and used. If someone else sees that, it'd be like, well, they ain't used the money, let's take that. And that's what it becomes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think it's twofold, right? I think the teams have to be willing to support themselves. Correct. Also, right? I think it's, we take what MWR gives us. We're a good steward of that. but to be able to just say, well, even like for us, like we want to be able to support more teams, but at the same time, is the team willing to help themselves, right? Are you going to do a fundraiser for your own travel, or, it can't always just be Hero Sports covers the bill, and it's a blank check just because we sponsor your team, right? Like what are you going to do to help not only Hero Sports be successful, but your team that is going to travel and play all these tournaments also be successful? And if it's just, well, we just want you to pay for our stuff, and we don't want to do anything. Well, every team in America wants that, right? It's not, every team wants to be a funded team that doesn't have to do anything but just show up and play. But it's it's not always the case.
Mike said, "Don't forget." What's up, Mike? He said, "Don't forget you got a meeting with him in
I'm
his
there,
office
brother.
Monday."
I'm there. Monday morning, 10 a.m. Lackland Sports Office.
And
bring
of course,
bring a notepad. Take some notes.
Haley from talk about military teams just want a van and a fuel card.
Yeah, boy, and that should be something MWR should be able to provide, right? I mean, personally,
so I know from the aspect of us, we don't have our own van. We rent the TMP from TMP, and they provide it. So it's a contract. So it's almost like the same thing of going to Enterprise and renting a vehicle from Enterprise, and then it becomes that, because like Haley was talking about, all we want is a van and a fuel card. Well, that van is going to cost essence of $300 a day for you to be going for a 4-day weekend to play in the tournament. Now we're looking at that's $1,200, $1,500 if you want a rough estimate to round up, and then with the fuel for that, maybe depending on where you're traveling to, $200 to $300 in fuel. So now that 5,000, that 2,000 that I talked about that's allocated for you has just been used up in the weekend. So so that saying, that's the type of stuff where saying for my Foxhole way, look at it like, it's different. And so it's like, okay, how do you use the money if you get the money? Some organizations, some installations support, others don't. And then I think that's really what the problem is that me coming from Lackland or Fort Sam Houston to where they were supportive, and I get to Carson and there's no support. I got to do it on my own.
For sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think there has to be a balance, right? I think there probably is a vehicle somewhere on the installation that probably wouldn't cost us $1,200 for us to use somewhere, right? So how do we use the resources that are already on the base to decrease that cost for us, right?
And you know what those resources are? Going to your unit commander, they have money. Yeah, going to the unit commander and they have money, and see if the unit commander is willing to support you.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of times the military athlete gets defeated and doesn't want to take those steps, and they're just like, well, we'll just do it on our own, right? We'll just figure it out. We'll go ask, businesses out in the community to support us. We'll try to go find that funding somewhere else, which is, I think, a great avenue as well. But I think sometimes having those tougher conversations on base and trying to work up the chain of command to get that support, is also needed.
Oh, it is. And like I said, we sat and talked in reference to varsity sports the other day, in which I think they went away with a understanding. But for the most part, the conversation that we had is probably not going to be effective till next year, where it's like, okay, then of course with the tempo of people moving and going on and PCS, and then those people who we had the meeting with may not be there next year, and then it gets lost in translation with the next person, and then we got to do the whole thing all over again because now they have to have an understanding. So it's a vicious cycle from what I see, and unless you have someone that's steadfast that's there, it just continues on. And of course, being a smaller installation, I put it as we're a small market. It gets lost. You know what I'm saying? We're not San Antonio where you got a whole plethora of military installations. Barksdale is one and done in there, but they're up the coast, up the highway. They have but they're, you know what I'm saying, that's a different program. And then you go move into some of the other southern states, and you got Fort Hood, that's just 6 hours away. We already know they're like the Fort Hood is like the New York Yankees of the athlete soldier athlete. I mean the armed forces athlete. So
Yeah.
just different things.
Well, and a lot of times the smaller market teams are the ones that need the most funding because they're the
Yes.
ones that are traveling the furthest. Like you take a team here in San Antonio, you can play a softball tournament every weekend here in San Antonio, and it doesn't cost you hardly anything to travel, right? But you don't have that at Fort Polk, and I only know that because I was stationed at
Was
Fort
there.
Polk. Yeah, so in order to go to a tournament, we got to go to San Antonio, Dallas, Houston,
Mm-hmm.
Shreveport, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. Like there is no local softball scene there, so those teams need more funding than some of the bigger ones, right? So
Mm-hmm.
trust me, I'm the biggest advocate for military sports and
Mm-hmm.
providing funding for that's what we do. We sponsor teams amongst different spectrums, not just softball, but
all across.
so we try to allocate funds that we raise to support those different teams. So I'm the biggest proponent of supporting military programs, but I think it's sometimes MWR not allocating the funds that are needed for those programs, and then sometimes it's the teams not wanting to help support their own cause. So it's a two-way street for sure. It's not one versus the other.
Well, yeah, one versus the other. It which saying hopefully it all starts coming in, because I think in this day and age, when you look at the whole, especially across the military, army particularly, when you look at the whole family first moniker and all that type of stuff, it starts to bring up to where it might start to come into play, especially now in this day and age in the climate, to where things like that are conducive to players competing and being engaged. And then of course it can bring family, depending on how you market it can bring families out to where where you have a situation of just like your local high school or local team, or saying any franchises there that you have. Now people are getting behind your installation like as such. And so I mean, I look at it, that's how I look at it. If it was me and I was in the position to be like yeah nay, then that's how I would do it. I have a whole idea of how I would do it, but I'm not. I'm a low man on the totem pole. And
yeah, but you keep hitting that hammer, man, and somebody's gonna keep listening. So I think as people who are in the military sports realm, we have to be those advocates for the chain of commands, to be the voice of, hey, we're all trying to support the soldier, right, or the airman, or the Marine or sailor. So how do we do that better? How do we have those conversations of, sometimes it is money, but sometimes it's not just monetarily. Sometimes it's just creating awareness of support in our own communities.
And that's what, true that. Because I remember about other people who have been here, I used to hit everybody up like, "Hey, what this? This is what we got on. This is what's going on. Can we this? Can we that? Can we this?" And it always in the questions, it starts to be answers given, and when you start to build up a level of understanding, and it just saying be what it is. And then of course I start getting, okay, well, go do an analysis. Or I guess you could say basically go put together a SWOT. And of course that's what it ended be there for me, because I was like, I got tired of doing SWOTs in college. So I was like, I'm not gonna go do a SWOT. I was like, that's just like, and then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? The next time someone asks me, I won't tell them go do a SWOT. It's like, this is your sweat equity. You go do a SWOT and come back to me with this analysis, and then we'll break it down and we'll see. And so that way I take this and I'll take it up to further and understand, because I know there was an installation that gave me, quote unquote, a SWOT analysis on why they weren't doing varsity sports anymore. Well, it wasn't exactly a SWOT analysis. It definitely was a situation where basically you just see what the threats was, and
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was threats. It was it was more so just the threat portion of it. And it's like, and so some installations do that. It's unfortunate because the players seem to think and believe that they're not getting any support. Like I think right now, my softball team honestly thinks I don't try to support them, which I do. I'm the biggest, like you just said, I'm a
yeah,
big supporter, advocate for sports in general. Like my
yeah,
whole life is right now it's centered around sports. And but it's what I'm saying, but of course you have everyone has their perception of things, and everyone like people go and read the regulation and they interpret the regulation as such. And it's like, but just like in military, the regulation is a guideline,
yeah,
and,
for
and
sure.
that's what the guideline is used for.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and
and
so,
same thing for us. Like when
mhm,
people come and ask us to support a team or sponsor a team or whatever, I want to know what your budget is. Like
mhm,
what are you really asking me? Are you asking me to pay for one tournament, or are you asking me to pay for one tournament over 12 months and travel and hotel and food and and equipment and so like that budget can be really small. It could be
mhm.
$500 you're asking me for, or it could be $10,000. Like I don't know. You're just saying, will you sponsor our team? Well, then I say, okay, well, what's your budget? And you're like, I don't know. Well, then you really need to go back and think about what that is going to cost. And I think when teams go back and look at what that cost is really going to be, and they're like, oh man, we're really asking this guy to give us $8,000. That's a lot of
Mhm.
money, right? Like now they're like, oh, well, that's a big ask. That's a big ask for anybody. So, when you make them go back and look at it and put the numbers to what they're asking for, now it's like, okay, well, how can we work together now to help make that $8,000? Well, now that's a whole conversation, right? So, just asking somebody to support your team and not having the numbers behind it, I think is you know, teams need to do a better job of really figuring out what they're asking for monetarily wise.
And then also from my aspect, when you look at it as well, I don't know if you get faced with the same thing from as far as for your nonprofits, like all these teams come up at a certain time. Like when do you all get together and figure out how do we tackle this as a whole unit as opposed to my separate sports? Like and
Yeah,
that's what I'm starting to see. Like
yeah,
come to me with saying y'all got together and this is a solution which y'all come from that divvies up is like, okay, this is what we're willing to do and this is what we can do,
yeah,
and I can tell you what I can do, and then y'all can figure it out from there. And so it's ongoing, it's continuously ongoing, in which
yeah.
I'm saying.
No, for sure. I mean, that's we're in that spider web every day. Trust me. So we try to scratch our heads to figure out how we can support more. But for us being a nonprofit,
Mhm.
we can only give dollars as we raise them. We don't have an MWR budget that we know we're going to have every year that we can just allocate money to. So so ours is a little different. And then
Mhm.
some years we're able to support more because we raise more money, and some years we're not able to support like we could the year before because there's a lot of factors, right? Fundraisers don't always go as well as they did the
As
year
was as you,
before.
yeah,
The,
what you
the
thought.
economy changes and people are less giving, and it people don't understand the factors that go into it. They're just like, oh, well, you're not able to support us this year. Well, it's not because we don't want to, it's because dollars and cents, and
Mhm.
that's there's a lot more to it than just, oh, well, we can't support that this year. Well, here's the reasons why we can't, so but people don't see that part, but that's we,
That's the
we
nature of the beast.
yeah, for sure. And we try to do as much as we can as often as we can, and fortunately we've done a lot of good over the long haul, and just as it keeps getting bigger and you keep supporting more, it just requires more funds and more effort to maintain that. So that's basically what I wake up every morning and try to do.
Hmm. So I know, like you said, Mike, you have an event. It's been appreciative, been very appreciative of you rocking with me this morning. And so us to be able to tap in and talk, what I'm saying, people listen, and maybe it continues to be where people start to see it. The light bulb comes on more so. It's like, okay, completely understand. And maybe some people might start looking and start coming to the table when they come speak to you or even me for that fact of the matter, be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? This is what we can do. This is what we're willing to do. And especially when you have reaches and you can do everything. So, but I know you got to get back to the business.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just say this too, just closing, man. Like, you know, I
Yes,
was
sir.
a military athlete myself, and I never looked at it from the standpoint of the MWR or a nonprofit organization, or I was just an athlete that wanted to play and didn't understand why that wasn't covered. Right. So
There's a lot of that going on nowadays.
yeah. So, you know, like I think mindset wise, we have to educate the players on just because, you know, back in the day when I was playing basketball and flag football and softball and wanting to travel and, you know, play all these tournaments and didn't understand why we couldn't have all that covered for us. Right. So I think it's educating those that are coming up through the ranks too on how to do that, how to create a budget, right, and how to forecast 12 months of expenses and what that looks like, and going to be able to make that ask, right, and you know, not just saying, hey, we want $2,000 and we're going to use that $2,000 the best we can. It's, hey, you know, we over the next 12 months we want to play these 6 tournaments. You know, hotels average this cost, airfare, gas, whatever, however you're getting there, it's going to be that cost, food cost, you know, tournament entry, you know, cost. And you really look at it and say, you know, we're presenting you this $10,000 budget because that's what it's going to cost us over the next 12 months to be able to put this team together, to be able to compete and be able to get there. And you may not get all 10,000. Maybe you get 4,000, you know, maybe you get 2,000 more than you really, you know, were allocated. So now you're $2,000 more ahead. And now you got to figure out how to make up that gap, right? And figure out that $6,000 gap.
That's $6,000.
You know, but you know, you're a lot further along than you were with just 2,000 because you formally presented expenditures. So you know, and I think that goes a long way, and I don't think that happens enough.
And that's the idea. Like, you know what I'm saying? It takes a whole big perspective. Like you said, some people just want to play. Like you said, you just wanted to play at that point.
Yeah, and everybody does, right? As the athlete, you just want to play, right? You just want to show up, you want to play, and you want to have everything covered. But in reality, you know, there's dollars and cents behind the decisions that get made. And, you know, when there's no dollars and cents, you have no funding, right? So, you know, I've seen it from both sides as a military service member who was wanting those funds and not being educated enough to go ask for them. And then now I see it on the veteran side as a business nonprofit that supports it. You know, but my first question to every team that asks me to sponsor is, what's your budget? You know,
what you come to the table, basically what you come to the table with.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what are you really asking me for? Because, you know, I can't say I can give you $5,000 this year for your team if you don't know what that $5,000 is going to go for. So, you know, I mean, I'm not going to just give you $5,000 to go play and say we sponsor your team, and you don't have, you know, a budget put together that, you know, is going to be where those funds are going to be allocated. So,
So I always, of course, like I said, like everyone's going in, like Coach Richard said, the Lightning, you know, saying people informative, people need to know, and from the least amount of person that doesn't understand. It was someone while I was talking yesterday said the same thing, like, oh, I didn't know. That's what it comes down. A lot of times it comes down to the ignorance of not being in the know, or not, you know, saying, or some people not even going to take a look and trying to figure it out, or some people going to look, and then I take it as an individual going to look and trying to figure out how to debunk the system, as opposed to understanding the system and then us working together to figure it out.
For sure. Yeah. I think if we can do you know, us as, you know, leaders in the sports military community can help educate some of the players on that, you know, I think that's a great start.
Yeah, of course. So, but greatly appreciated, Mike, man, coming through, bro.
Absolutely.
I know you got to get to it, and then Monday you got that meeting with Mike. You know what I'm saying?
Always, man.
At 10 o'clock.
Always.
I hope so. Like I said, that's April next month, end of the April next month. I should be that. I plan to be down in San Antonio, so we'll be able to chat up and get it there. Like a let's get ration room. Yeah, you know saying budget. I was a ration room ECO. I remember have the budget, the food that came in. So yeah, it comes full circle, man. But I hope you have a good weekend, a great tournament, man, and you know saying be able to pull up and talk about it in sometime next week or something like that, brother.
Yes, sir, man. Let me know.
Yes, all right, man. You take care, man.
All right, bro. Appreciate you.
All right. Yes, sir. So, of course, you know what I'm saying? Y'all just seen Mike Barker, Hero Sports. In conversation, man, it's always conversation. Everything comes down to talking about this funding and everything like that. You see people who are basically saying that they're advocates for what goes on for the military athlete in sports. You come here and talk about it. We've been having a conversation all week for the last couple of weeks in reference to military basketball. Now, you know what I'm saying, you see from an individual who just is a person who supports sports in general, same conversation. So it should start to resonate that, you know what I'm saying, everyone's going through the same stuff. It's across different aspects of the situation when it comes to situations. And now it's just a point to where people start to get together and figure out how we're going to do these things and how things come about. And some people that's willing out there to speak. So let's continue to push that line. But of course, it's been a great week this week. I look forward to, you know, saying more as we continue to try to get more people on to have conversations, whether it's talking about military basketball. Yes, I work with Mike Hero Sports. So, yeah, so you know, what I'm saying that right there, Mike Richardson has the opportunity to work where they have built a rapport to where they get those things and do those things. So, you know what I'm saying, that's one. And you have other nonprofits, I'm very sure, that is tap in. If you everyone starts to bind together, and then now you have a reach in front across the nation. And then you have people that can basically like, okay, this is what's going on. A whole bunch of organizations out there that are looking to do something, or in some way, everyone should have an opportunity or have a way to contribute in some way, form, or fashion. I think that some of the situation is that we're always thinking monetarily, and sometimes there's services outside of the monetary aspect. So look forward to more conversations in reference to, or just our usual, we're talking about the sports and asking questions and getting in perspectives and conversation. So I hope y'all enjoyed this week and look forward to tapping in again with y'all next week. Of course, our same thing as always, 09 to 1100 hours Central Standard Time. First Formation Morning Sports Talk. It's myself, your boy Trey Bishop when he's able to be in. And then, of course, all y'all that high speeds that tap in and listen every morning. Your comments and conversation contribute to the show as well. So it's a whole vibe here. I hope y'all enjoy y'all day. I look forward to tapping in with y'all again on Monday. Have a great day. This is your boy Trey. I'm out. Peace.